I know mountain biking is completely unique. It's got its own culture. It's such a special sport. Honestly, I respect the fact that people don't necessarily want to see change, and I get that we've got to like kind of earn the right. Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing this up, because then I don't have to pay money to my therapist anymore to talk about this.
Kate Mason, welcome to the Downtime Podcast. Thanks for joining us on a sunny day in Leger.
Thank you so much. It's so cool to be here, especially because on my way over here, I walked past the Maxi's tyres.
Oh, did you now?
Like a bit, and all I could hear in my voice was, this is sponsored by Maxi's tyres, in your voice.
Sorry about that.
No, it's actually fine.
Yeah, there's a few people that seem to, like, they recognise the voice, they don't know the face, which is quite nice, so I can hide away, but you're on the other side of that spectrum, right? Not so easy.
Yeah, they can associate all the inane things coming out of my mouth with my face.
Class.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to finding out a bit more about you, and hopefully introducing a lot of the listeners to that as well, and getting some background. Yeah, so let's go right back. Tell us a little bit about like where you grew up and how sport came into your life, because I think you travelled around a bit when you were younger, right?
Yes, that is true. So I'm from Northamptonshire,
okay,
which is a very flat part of the world.
It is indeed. Yeah, not much mountain biking to be had.
No, but we did, when I was a little kid, we did travel around until I was about 10 or 11, I think. My dad's had various jobs, and sorry, that sounds as though I'm hiding something, doesn't it? Yes, he's a spy, guys. No, he was like an accountant or something. And we had jobs in different parts of the world, so we moved around a lot when I was a kid, and then settled back in Northants. But in terms of the sport, like I'm an only child, and I just always, I don't know, wanted to play sport with people. Maybe I was a lonely child. Is that what it is?
Yeah, team sports became a thing, right?
Yeah. And just, like kind of kicking a ball around in a bit of a sad way on my own, probably trying to play cricket in the garden with my dad. And then the thing that, oh my God, what am I presenting myself as to your listeners?
Keep going, Kate.
Some sad, lonely character. Because what I ultimately got into, partly by way of not really being allowed or not really being encouraged to play a lot of so I wanted to play football, I wanted to play cricket, and there's a lot of kind of sob stuff about, I showed up to try and play for a boys team and the coach was like, get stuffed, basically.
Really?
Not in those terms exactly, but almost in those terms. It was that I'm old enough for it to be that kind of era.
Yeah, true. Okay.
And then ultimately, my parents played a bit of squash, and that is much more of a kind of equal sport, and it's the same. It's the same for girls and boys. You play for 5 games, best of 5, blah, blah, blah. And you can also kind of play it on your own.
Yes, because there's a wall to hit the ball against. Got it. Perfect only child sport.
Yeah, great. So anyway, I did a bit of that. That was a big thing for me as well when I was growing up.
Yeah, okay. And was sports presenting ever a thought as a child? Like what when you were getting through like GCSEs, A levels, that kind of stuff, I guess it would have been at the time, and thinking about going off to uni, did you have a feel for what path you wanted to go down?
Oh my goodness. I wanted to go down every path.
Okay.
So I was playing quite a lot of squash. I also did a bit of swimming, partly because, we lived in not sunny places, so you could swim outdoors. And then when I got back to England, I was like, what is it? Why are we doing this?
This is not so much fun anymore.
This is not what we want. And then I really liked acting. I played the violin. That probably was the thing I was the most serious at.
Okay.
Like lots and lots of hours of practice. But the thing I liked, I suppose, about all of this was the kind of performance element. So I was like, I'd watch a hell of a lot of sport, but I didn't necessarily think that could be a space that I was in with this like sort of slightly annoying wanting to perform and present things. Yeah, exactly. That I was always trying to do when I was a kid. So gradually I guess I kind of figured that out. Like when I was at university, I wrote stuff for the university paper, and I do like match reports occasionally, that sort of thing. But I didn't necessarily think it was because you didn't. I don't know, a few women like that you would see on telly doing stuff. And I hadn't been a professional athlete of any kind. So I thought, maybe that's not possible.
Okay.
And then after university, I just got any old job because...
What did you study at uni?
English.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was very much a kind of... go and do it and see what happens.
Yeah,
like
you
I
weren't
wasn't
there with a plan at that point.
I wasn't really.
Okay. No,
like,
I wasn't either.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just sort of thought you'd meet lots of interesting people. Like I got into Cambridge, so I thought, bloody hell, this will be amazing in terms of...
Just explain that like Oxford Cambridge thing for people outside of the UK, because it's quite unique in it, I guess.
Oh God. So I suppose they're supposed to be the the hardest ones to get into.
Yeah, there's like a separate entry exam for just those two, right? I think, or there was. I had
to do a test. I can't remember. I had to do a test in the specific college that I applied to. I can't remember what the other bit of the process was, but there was like practice and stuff in the run up because you had to do an interview. This was the big thing. I think I had 2 or 3 interviews. Which is a lot, especially when you're like 17 and you're just sort of struggling to string a sentence together. Because writing stuff down was like actually what I was okay at. I wasn't actually very good at communicating necessarily, and I think probably that's one of the reasons I thought it'd be quite cool to see if I could become someone who broadcast for a living.
Fair.
So yeah, we did a load of practice around that. And my mum is an English teacher, retired now, but she was an English teacher. And I think I wouldn't say coerced, but certainly I liked English a lot, but I don't think I necessarily had that much. I don't think I would necessarily have been greeted with open arms if I'd said, I really want to go and do maths or or not go to university, you know, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So she definitely helped me a lot to kind of prep stuff. And then went along. It's bloody intimidating.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Have you ever been into the?
I've been into Oxford, but like not only as like a tourist, basically, not in.
It's quite, Well, it's cool because like it's in Harry Potter, isn't it? Oxford. So
and very
now people know about it.
And like,
it's
pretty full on. I imagine.
And you go the interview I went to, the guy who would become my like director of studies, so sort of the guy in charge of your first year. It's like something out of the olden times, I would say. Books everywhere, and you sort of sit on a very like elegant sofa, and you're and you're a kid, right? So I've been to this really quite academic, I guess, school, and which had all sorts of set up to help me be able to do that sort of thing. And then, but imagine if you hadn't, like, I can see why it would be really bloody hard. I found it pretty intimidating, to be honest.
It didn't put you off going though?
No, because I thought it was incredible. I thought it was such an amazing like privilege, the idea of being around, because I think I really liked Blackadder when I was, the comedy.
Yes, I know Blackadder.
Yeah, and someone had told me that they'd been to Cambridge.
Right.
And so I sort of thought, wow, so you could be super...
The footlights is the
you could sort of be really clever, or you could do this acting. Like, there's going to be some pretty cool people kicking around there.
Yeah. And
there was like the boat race as well. So there's obviously people doing sport.
Yeah. So you saw the potential for that, like, beyond just the English degree.
I just thought, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on in this place.
And a lot of influential people end up going there. So your network that you can build at university like Oxford and Cambridge is, I mean, my uni network has been super valuable over the years, and it wasn't Oxford or Cambridge, but you meet a lot of powerful people there, I guess.
God, yeah. I suppose I didn't really think about it in those terms, but I guess it was just quite cool to think that I might meet people from different walks of life people were really interested in stuff. Like, I think because everyone was a dork, right? So they were sort of like comfortable, not everyone, but almost everyone. They were kind of comfortable with being like, hey, like, I'm reading this thing, what do you think about it? And I just thought that was really nice.
Okay. Your inner dork was like comforted by the fact that everyone there was going to be similar in that respect. Because it's not always the way, right? Some people just go to university to get drunk for 3 or 4 years and have fun.
I did that as well. I don't want to, what am I coming across as? Like some tragic, lonely dork. Brilliant. Yeah.
We're painting a good picture
Is
so
that going to
far.
endear your listeners to me,
I don't know.
Chris?
Well, we'll have a poll afterwards.
I think, look, in all seriousness, like, everyone is interesting about something.
For sure.
And I think probably that is, to go back to your original question about 20 minutes ago, I think that is the thing that I thought would be cool about broadcasting in sport, is that people are obsessed with sports.
Yeah, if you're into it, you're into it,
You're
right?
into it, right? And I just love the way that connects people, and that you can sit and have, if you figure out what someone's into, generally, but specifically with sport, you can just talk to them for bloody hours, and it's really amazing. And the way people's kind of eyes light up when they hear what you do, they just want to talk about it. They want to talk about what their views are about this and that. They want to find out if you covered their sport, if it's like not a massive one that's covered a lot on telly. I just think it's one of the great. It's the great thing, isn't it? It's the great connecting thing, and I just love the idea of the communities around sport. And I think London 2012 really like crystallized that for me, because it was in London where I was living. I'd moved down from university by then, and just I don't know if you remember, but the city was just so happy. Like,
it was incredible.
People were just chatting to each other on the tube and dressed up as whatever. I got tickets to the Greco-Roman wrestling because I just put my name down for everything. Yeah. And we like dressed up in sheets as Greeks and just went along, and it was like not the most weird thing that anyone was wearing like on that carriage, let alone.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And it was just so much fun. And I saw I think Claire Balding was the kind of star from the broadcast perspective, was like the star of that. And I just loved the way that she let the kind of joy of all of these stories really come through, and she really listens to what people are talking about and what people are trying to express and what they've come through or how they've achieved it. And I thought, man, that would be like worth devoting your career to.
Yeah, well, it shows the power of sport, hey, because you're right, it did for 4 or 5 weeks, it did change London. Like it was pretty insane. Unfortunately, it went right back to what it was before, but
But I became a broadcaster, so
happy days, win-win. Well, so okay then. So you've had this, you've got your English degree, you've done some kind of sports-related bits and pieces and written match reports and stuff at uni. You've come out and you've been inspired by London 2012. What are you doing at this point as a job?
Oh my god! So the job I got after university was very much just. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I had to obviously earn money and get to London. That was as far as my plan went, to find out what I was going to do for an actual career. Yeah. So I got this job. I went to like an open day of a million jobs, some recruitment companies, get in touch with likely looking. Yeah, it was really boring and cringe. But anyway, this company, Autonomy, that I ended up working for, I didn't know anything about them, but they were the shirt sponsor of the football team that I support.
You're a Spurs fan, right?
Yeah. And so I sort of I was like, I kind of recognise, okay, I'll go into that little interview room. Yeah. So I don't want to sound too I guess very lucky that I ultimately managed to blag a job with these guys. It was supposed to be like a graduate trainee scheme, but it was like a sales job effectively.
Not your dream job.
Not my dream job.
Yeah.
But the advantage, everybody, if you want to switch careers or support yourself while trying to do something you really want to do, is that if you do sales, I don't know if this is fine. The company doesn't exist anymore. If you do sales, you can be like, oh, I'm just going out to a meeting. And you can go and do an internship at the BBC.
And that happened, did it?
And I also used to do, I wrote, again, I kept trying to write things, and I would send stuff. I had spreadsheets. We've already talked about spreadsheets. Yeah. It's not spreadsheets with numbers in. It's more like contact details. Okay. So I'd be like, okay, who is the person who's in charge of this bit at this telly company or at this newspaper, whatever. And I would sort of figure out, is there any way, have I found any contact details like this? Yeah. Like it was a challenge. Okay. And then I'd find someone I could talk to. And then if they were just trying to fob me off, I'd be like, oh, cool, but do you know anybody else I could talk to? And that actually is a thing that the sales job at Autonomy taught me, was always just ask for the next okay, fine, you can't help, but who's the next person? Yeah,
don't give up kind of thing. Keep trying.
Yeah, and so I got a few words into the Metro. This was the kind of the first thing, and off the back of that and various other slightly tragic little pretend match, hello, I'm here and somewhere fake and I'm doing this and that. I managed to get on an internship at the BBC called Kickoff, I think. And it was a sports specific thing, and you got to be with a local radio station on the sports desk with them. So I was doing it in London.
Yeah.
And that was 2 days a week, sometimes work days.
Impressive.
But I had to have a lot of meetings on
big,
those
busy
days.
Meetings.
Serious meetings.
Lots of sales.
Oh, I was making so many sales. So I did that for a summer, and then asked him about, is there anything I could do? Ended up doing some announcing at Wembley, which is pretty cool. Travel news, that was another one.
Traffic and travel.
And with that one, I would do that generally in the working day. So I called myself Kate something else. Graham?
Okay.
I thought that sounded like a competent traffic and travel broadcaster. So I would go, there was probably still is, in Farringdon, is where all of your traffic and travel news, whatever radio station you're listening to, comes from a studio in Farringdon.
Really?
Yes. And
That's
it's
weird.
so it's like a broadcasting battery farm.
Yeah.
So you sit in there in your desk and you've got a whole load of buttons. And so it'd be like BBC Cambridge, LBC, somewhere in Scotland, Isle of Man today, or whatever their show is.
So weird.
So you'd have all of these windows open up on your screen that would be the roads of all of these places. And you'd have to bloody blag that you knew where the A6297 or whatever was, and I think there's a cow blocking the road, and sorry, there's going to be a bit of a build up of traffic.
Amazing.
So I thought that would be a good way of learning how to talk sensibly about anything.
I guess you've got to think on your feet, right?
Oh my god, I don't think I could even drive at that point. So I was really you could also see into some CCTV cameras.
Oh.
Yeah, so you could, if you were really bored, you could kind of see what was going on if someone had gotten into a box junction.
Good. Sounds like a fun job.
It actually was really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a real range of, you could set a really good sitcom actually in the traffic and travel office in Farringdon, because there was, there were people from all walks of life. There was some people who were doing, were being actors and they, had lovely voices and were in there doing that. Some people had just been doing it for years. Some people it was kind of like a hobby and they just wanted to do it every morning.
Travel.
Mate. Yes.
Okay. That exists. That's the thing. Okay.
Yeah. Well, like we said, people can be obsessed by anything.
Yeah, this is very true.
And they were all just really sweet people. And they knew that it was like me trying to just get the hours in, because that's what I think about broadcasting. You just have to do the hours.
It's like the 10,000 hours thing, right? To be good at something takes time.
Yeah. And because it's stressful and because it's weird that people are watching you as you talk and possibly make loads of, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
God, how exciting.
You can do what you want.
I'll tell you what, I really love swearing. That is one...
I have heard this about you.
It's one downside of telly.
Potty mouth Kate is how you were described.
Oh, really? I fucking love it. I don't know. I just think it's,
Have you ever slipped one in on telly accidentally?
Never, no.
Okay.
So it's clearly...
There's an easy filter to just turn it off.
It's clearly a thing that I'm doing consciously and really enjoying. Yeah. I once got told off for saying arse or something on 5 Live.
Okay.
But I actually think it was okay. I think I'm allowed to.
Right.
Yeah, I think they were being over cautious.
Yeah.
But I do fucking love a swear. And that is interesting, isn't it? I clearly, oh God, now I'm gonna swear this weekend or something, aren't I? Now I've confidently said to you, oh no, never swear. How do we get onto that? Swearing. I love to do it, but I can't do it on live TV. Yes, well maybe that's it. I don't think it's, I guess some people, I mean like Josh Carlson, he does the stuff here, he's done a lot of YouTube things that he did himself. He is a bloody natural broadcaster.
Yeah, you can feel it.
He's he's not done his 10,000 hours. And he can just really hold the viewer and knows how to bring his personality into it. It's amazing. But I think in terms of presenting, and because there's a lot going on kind of in your ears and behind the scenes, I think you do, in order to feel natural and in order not to kind of react to the stuff or lose your shit every time anything breaks, I think there's no substitute really for practice, which is hard because obviously not many people are like, oh, come and present my TV show just because you want to.
Yeah. So was this a conscious thing though? That it wasn't that you couldn't yet get a job doing what you wanted to do, so you did traffic and travel, or were you doing traffic and travel because you knew I need to get these hours in. Like I need to do the bench press kind of thing of broadcasting and
exactly
get better.
Yeah, so that was I mean, there are some amazing announcers, and again we work with like Randy and some of the guys, but for me again the announcing, it was like a route to try and figure out how to do stuff live, but maybe that wasn't being recorded. So again, if you messed it up, I'm just now worried about how many swears I'm doing, then it wasn't too much of a problem. And then the traffic and travel, just kind of talking naturally. And then ultimately where that led me to was a job in Qatar, because I managed to get a full-time. I met somebody. I was doing some I just signed up for anything, as is probably clear. So I was doing some interviews for I think it was the LPGA tour. I think it was golf. Yeah. And I met this guy. He was about to go and work in Qatar. It's called beIN Sports, which used to be a French, I think maybe still is a French broadcaster, and Al Jazeera is the kind of famous thing. It's the sports bit of Al Jazeera, basically. And he said, I'm going to go and move to Qatar. I didn't know anything about Qatar. This is years ago. And I was like, he said, if you would move to Qatar, I think you'd be able to get a job presenting regularly on their sports team. Yeah. I was like, well, that's exactly what I want. I don't really want to move to Qatar, but in terms of getting the hours in. Also, this was before the World Cup was going to be held there. So I literally knew, I don't want to sound like a complete ignoramus in light of, what we now know about what kind of a place it is and some of the people who suffer living there. But I just thought, it's in the Middle East. That's quite interesting.
It'll be warm.
Oh my God, is it warm? So I ended up speaking to this guy's boss and sort of doing a Zoom interview, and then sending a few bits that I'd done, and managing ages later, a year later, having thought it had completely gone nowhere and I was never going to hear from them again. They sort of sent me a ticket and were like, right, see you next week.
Whoa.
Or 2 weeks. I might be exaggerating.
But still, that's
it's so weird, man.
And that was kind of the big break then, I guess, for you, was it really?
Yeah, because I've been doing all these, I'm saying to you, I haven't given you my exhaustive CV, but I've done a lot of little gigs here and there, repeated stuff that was not very high profile, but again, it allowed me to put my voice on things and get used to doing that. And then the Qatar thing was, repeated live TV presenting that was not too complicated, and also felt a bit protected in the sense that, people who maybe I wanted to get jobs with next wouldn't necessarily be seeing it, but I was learning. Yeah. And I think the main job really of a sports presenter is, because it's live, stuff's always changing, and stuff is, to be honest, always going wrong. I don't mean that in the sense that people are doing stuff wrong. I just mean that it's live. So, someone could even just spill their tea on the desk, or, someone goes to the wrong camera because something's happened, or a feed drops, or you think you've got an interview, but you haven't. Yeah. And so basically that's true in all scenarios. So that was what I was learning when I was out there.
Just getting the graft in and learning the practice, I guess.
Yeah.
And so football was a big love for you, Spurs supporter through and through.
Yeah.
I don't share your love, so I can't really.
Don't worry, it's fine.
Can't talk to you about football very much, but
no.
You got into presenting football. I think you were doing football stuff on Sky Sports.
I was. Yeah. I actually my job was, I was my kind of contract there which I got off the back of the Qatar job. I got together a good enough show reel, and I met the boss, and he was like, I was back for a friend's wedding, and I went to this, what I thought was a coffee. It was a bloody screen test.
No way.
I was really hungover. I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? He had my CV printed out, which I must have sent, a while before. And he was like, right, sit in this thing and I'll talk in your... I was like, bloody hell. I think it was good in a way, because otherwise I would have got so nervous.
Yeah, if you knew you were walking into that, yeah.
And at that point, I did really want to leave Qatar. I was there for 2 years. It's a long time. When people came to visit me, I'd be like, come for 5 days. I can give you a really good itinerary. Yeah. There's not a lot going on there, I'm afraid.
No.
So I got that job. It was a presenter on Sky Sports News, so the kind of rolling 24-hour sports news channel, which is wicked, because it means you're covering a bunch of stuff. It's, again, talk about the hours. My shift would be 4 hours of live presenting. sort of 3 or 4 times a week.
Full on.
Yeah. And it's cool because you're getting there, you know, you're again, practicing. And I also did, Soccer Saturday, I did a few kind of hits from various places.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was brilliant.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you're in, I guess, to some extent, what would like the dream job at some point. This is where you wanted to get into this sports broadcasting, and football, something you're super passionate about.
Yeah.
Mountain biking feels kind of left field at this point. Like where, how does that come in?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I wasn't supposed to trying to be a football presenter specifically. That wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, sure, I want to present the World Cup final.
That would be pretty cool.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But I definitely I always wanted to do a range of sports. And again, you know, there's not a blueprint for this. It's not like, I don't know, becoming a teacher and you kind of like work your way up. So I suppose I just always was open to the sports that were going on. You know, I'd done a bit of cricket.
Yeah.
I was doing a bit of, I did some triathlon as well, which was so much fun. So it was never that I was, I don't know, I guess I was, I, like I said to you about people caring about stuff, I just bloody love being in these new communities and seeing how different it is, but also kind of how similar. Like,
yeah, sports fan's a sports fan at the end of the day,
yeah,
I guess. Like,
and I love the way that everyone is so, you know, like the squash contingent is really like angry about tennis, and then, you know, like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so, I don't know, I find it quite endearing. I know sometimes it can be a bit, you know, football fans don't like, you know, think rugby fans think that football is whatever. It can be a bit tiring also, but I think it's quite cute.
But you're in amongst passion all the time, right? Like
Exactly.
There's energy involved in it. And I'm sensing that you're quite, like you're an energetic person.
Yeah, and I love the energy of that.
Yeah.
And I love being on site. So basically, I had met one of the guys who is in charge of kind of, this is a gross word, but talent for Warner Brothers, who run the coverage. And I wanted to do live sports presenting on site. That was kind of what I'd said to him. I want to be in amongst it, and I want to be like with a group of fans, kind of communicating the like passion of this.
Yeah, because some stuff, I guess we should say, is like done totally remote. So you might be in a different country, in a green box with like screens projected behind you and all this, which is you're not there to soak up that passion at that point. No, you're not feeling the energy of it.
Yeah, and so that had been a conversation I'd had, I don't know, 3 years ago, whatever, part of this whole, you know, spreadsheet thing. Keep meeting
ticking
people,
boxes,
seeing who's around, just like interesting to talk to people who do different jobs.
Yeah.
And then I guess Warner Brothers got the rights to the tour, to all of it. I don't, sorry,
to cycling,
to so much stuff. They were already doing the road stuff, and they were like, wow, people just, you know, they bloody love cycling, they bloody love mountain biking. Let's do this. And so as a result, they were looking specifically for a presenter. And so basically it was an audition process, like less hungover, but similar to the Sky thing, because I knew I was going for an audition. So there was, I don't know how many of us there were, but quite a few from all different backgrounds. Some people who'd done work in mountain bike before, some people like me who hadn't, but had perhaps more live broadcasting experience. Yeah. And so it was kind of a question about, which was not answered by me. They just obviously thought it was all right what I did in that process of like, what are we looking for? Okay, you know, this is going to be this is a difficult, to be honest, like broadcasting on a mountain in rain with the gallery, so the people who are making it happen back in London. You got a few people on site, and it's quite tricky. Like, it's definitely not the easiest job I've ever done.
Yeah, definitely want to dig into that a bit more, actually. But so
basically they gave us a quite rigorous, like I think I maybe did 3 or 4 screen tests.
Yeah, okay.
And in the end, the boss rang me up, and I think it was like, I don't want to say New Year's Day, that sounds mad, but like it was something like that. Rang me up and was like, Kate, we want you to come and do this.
Sweet.
And I was just like, oh my God, this is incredible. Because also in the process of preparing for that stuff, I'd spoken to some of the guys who were already involved. You know, I'd tried to learn as much as I could in a short space of time. So I'd obviously see, you know, everyone's seeing clips of downhill mountain biking, just like, you know, on TikTok stuff, and all that stuff. Yeah, Loïc Bruni, whatever. Yeah. Aaron Gwynn. So I'd seen that, but I'd never like dug into it before. But as I started to do it, you increasingly like, oh my God, I won this job so bad.
Cool. You started to get excited.
Yeah, because a lot of the first screen test was like in a bunker in Bath. So we were just like watching it on the screen. And I was just like, this is sick. And then the next one, there was more on-site stuff that we were practicing.
Yeah. Because had you ridden at all before? Like, had mountain biking kind of featured for you or not really?
Just like as a kid with a bunch of people. Yeah, I'd been out and about. My boyfriend lives in Barcelona, so it'd been there's like some lovely kind of mountains around there. Oh, nice. So I've been out there have done more.
Had that
now.
experience, but
yeah. But it was.
But you weren't aware of like what the sport, certainly from a downhill side anyway, kind of involved, I suppose.
No, I mean. Yeah, I was a real outsider, Chris. Yeah, I was. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, gradually in the process, I was meeting like all of the guys that you and I know who are involved in it. But I think, honestly, that's the skill of a sports broadcast, like of the really top end, the ones I really respect. Yeah. Like Hilaire Balding, like Mark Chapman, Gabby Logan. Yeah. They can bloody come into a sport and just... get all the information down, figure out what the language of the sport is and try and communicate that. And with that, bring the skills that they have from other sports as well. Because of course, downhill mountain biking is completely unique. It's got its own culture. It's such a special sport. But what you can bring if you have this other context is like things you've learned from elsewhere. And you can try and like see if that's relevant to what you're trying to do in the broadcast here too.
It's pretty complex, right? Like,
come on.
So how do you prepare? Like, let's starting from scratch. You've seen a TikTok clip of Loïc or Aaron's chainless run or whatever it is.
Yes.
How do you get from there to being ready to kind of turn up? Like, I guess Novia Mesto last year would have been your first like live broadcast.
Oh my God.
What does the process involve from when you found out you were going to be doing it to being on site that first time?
It was pretty nerve-wracking. Yeah, it really was. Because there's the balance to be struck between... Because I tried to talk to as many people who knew about the sport, actually not dissimilar to when I was trying to find work all those years ago. Okay. To be like...
There's a spreadsheet.
Hey, there's a spreadsheet. Yeah. Hasn't got macros. It's just basically a glorified list. Okay. But yeah, it was like, right, who are the top riders? Who are the ones I'm going to need to know about? So I'm watching all the stuff that's on the like Red Bull site. I'm watching all the clips from that. So then I'm like, just basics to start with, like age, who they ride for, what they've been up to. So that's got columns. Yeah. You can see where this is going. And then we do like a few previous results. Yeah. But then you don't want to stress yourself out completely, because also you're not here. I'm not here to be the person who's the fountain of knowledge. No, my job is to try and get like to figure out what's the story, basically. So that's where the journalism stuff comes into it. Like, what is the story that we're trying to tell here? Mm-hmm. And also here's the thing I think is quite complicated, because the aim in Warner Brothers getting mountain biking is they wanted to support the existing fans, but they also want to grow it, right? I was going to
ask you how you communicate on those different levels, like to people that don't know anything about it, but then to the super fans
that hard.
Know everything about it.
It's hard. And I was lucky enough to present some the India Test series, the cricket, at the start of the year. And that is, again, that I was thinking about it there because, cricket fans also very, very like, quite a lot of them quite cerebral, like, but you don't want to just completely shut out people who might have just turned it on for the first time. Yeah. With that stuff, there's so much language around cricket as well. It's quite tricky. I don't think I've solved it, but yeah, in terms of mountain bike, I think it is about having like levels of what you're trying to do. Yeah. So you can ask a question that is quite simple, but you can then encourage your pundit to go more with it and to say, okay, great, can you answer that on a kind of for this level and also for this level? And also you can just do the basics of like just saying like the simple stuff of who these people are, you know, so not in like by the way, but just so that in case people need to like catch up. I think that's just good.
The history kind of thing, like 6 times world champion.
Exactly. I think it's just good kind of like if you've ever turned on a sport that you maybe don't know too well, I mean, you can generally get if the commentator's good,
Yeah.
they'll like keep you up to date with it.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the challenge of it. But to answer your question, I don't know, man. It's one of the that's the biggie.
Yeah.
Being able to say, but I think it comes back to there's a storyline. We know what the storyline is. You know, someone's coming back from someone's the rookie who's trying to like push on and go, you know, win their first World Cup, or somebody's been, you know, we mentioned Bruni already. Someone's been near perfect in a race. Like, what does that do to your mentality? These are the stories that Miriam Nicol, I mean, she just writes herself, doesn't she? But, you know, you're just trying to feel it from like a human perspective.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the tech side of stuff, I'm still very much learning on that. So we have to I work with the guys, like often with Josh or some of the other for the teams, you know, quite often speaking to Specialized or one of the other teams to get them to explain stuff to me. And we're kind of piecing that together gradually, because then you're saying, hello, expert, give me some expertise. And that's how we try and do that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's tricky though. Like some of the stories are very obvious, like in and of a weekend.
Yeah.
There are other stories that you kind of almost need the history to know. So you've like, I guess you've had to go and...
Aaron Gwynn is like a bloody resource.
Yeah, okay, fair play.
Yeah.
You've been surrounded by people that can help with that stuff, but there's a lot of
history.
Like history to get up to speed on.
Completely.
Like.
Yeah, and you know, I asked for film recommendations, like Long Live Chainsaw and...
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. So feel free to... I'll get a reading list off of you as well. But, you know, because with anything you join, you're building on it every day.
You're always
that's the joy of it, to be honest. Like I feel very lucky that I get to chat to these people about who were there in the moment. I don't just mean on camera, although that's incredible. I mean, like, you know, if I give Aaron a ring or whoever and say, oh, can you just like talk to me about how you think this should work? So a lot of it, the aim with the lives is for them to feel quite hopefully quite relaxed and quite kind of informal and sometimes quite straightforward, but generally that's had quite a lot of like pre-chat around it to make sure we all kind of know where we're going.
There's plenty of meetings beforehand, I'm sure. How does it work then? So I saw your sort of live bubble in Fort William, and it's definitely not just you, Aaron and Josh. Like you're surrounded by a fairly significant crew of people with all sorts of like things and technology and stuff. Like, who are those people? What are they doing? Like, what is that bubble? And how does it work, I guess? Yeah,
so I mean, a lot of people are on obviously different cameras. So quite often they'll be out and about, and then we'll have one or two who are producing or providing what you see.
Yeah.
These guys, so talented because they have to be able to move around with the group, but then they also have to do stuff like shooting actual action. And just be really, like in something like it's very artistic as well, because we try and do some like arty openers where we're like walking through or which I really love. So there's those guys, obviously. There'll be someone with a monitor. Generally, that's been like a volunteer recently.
Oh, really?
So
that's so you can see what's going out live.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that means that, for example, if I'm talking to the guys and then we're out of vision, i.e. something's, you know, a clip is playing, a bit of footage, then I can, I don't know, scratch my nose or like have a look at what's, you know, check that I'm in the right place. So that's those guys. Leah, she's like a assistant producer, floor manager person. So she kind of makes sure everyone's in the right place, knows what's going on and knows where we're going, knows how the show fits together in case anything goes wrong, which as discussed. And then makeup as well, Laura, who does makeup. She's there just to make sure, again, no one's got a bogey, as well as to make them look pretty. Aaron bloody loves it. Well,
he's into his makeup, is he now? Yeah. You can share these things. It's fine.
You know what it is? Well, you'd have to ask him directly.
Okay.
But I think what it is, like with anybody who's done, obviously he has performed at the very highest level, but anybody who's performed, it's nice to feel like you've got someone there kind of saying, right, you're ready to go. Yep, you're good. You know, it's a new environment for him, right? As a broadcaster, he's so instinctively good at it.
Yeah.
But we still talk about stuff, you know, things he could talk more about, or like what's useful for him to bring to the conversation, like chats that he's had, you know, if he's comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So I think it's very, I think people underestimate the kind of everyone, the team that we're talking about around. And what you don't see, of course, as well, is all the things that I hear in my ear.
Yeah, so
because they're not here; they're in London. So we're on site.
Yeah.
And there is an OB van, which is like effectively a portable gallery, like where all of the monitors and stuff are. There's one on site, but there's also one back in London, and that's where the producer is, the director, all the voices I'm getting, the person who does accounts, Gabby. So these guys and girls are basically responsible again for the images that you will see on the screen. So, you know, if it's going from us talking about a particular race run to putting that on the screen, that will be being talked about in my ear, and then it'll be rolled and counted because it has a specific time frame as well. So it'll be 30 seconds or whatever.
Are you hearing all the conversation in the gallery, or are they only like pressing a button when they want to speak to you?
Yeah, some people have what's called open talkback, so where they just hear everything. I've had that in the past. I go backwards and forwards about it because I do kind of like to hear everything.
Okay.
But then sometimes the thing is with downhill, particularly because it just gets so fucking loud in the bowl, I can't really bloody hear anything.
Okay.
So I have to try and have just one voice for the end, basically, because sometimes at time, like, was it here last? No, here last year we were up on a platform, but it must have been.
Got pretty loud for you in Leogang, didn't it, recently? I think there's a lot of chainsaws nearby.
Yeah, I think Leogang was good. I think we fixed it pretty much this year in terms of hearing.
Yeah.
But maybe last year I didn't hear anything from the end of the no, it must have been podium, basically, till I took us off air. So I had to just be like, sure, cool, all right, I think that's the end of the show, bye.
That's kind of daunting though, right?
Yeah.
Like admittedly, it must be hard to have the conversation you're having and be listening to this, but like it's your lifeline as well, I guess. Like they're keeping you on track.
I could sort of hear that it was okay to go off air, but you know, because there's like ads and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes if we're on digital, there might not be, but if you're on Eurosport 1, for example, there might be times that you've got to hit. So in that one, I just had to think, look, it's not good. Like I know we got to go off air at a point basically now. I think I can hear that that's okay. So that's some of the challenges, is to just, I think being decisive as well is something you get with experience, because you're kind of leading it at that point. You know, you have to just decide. You can't be like, hello, excuse me, I don't know what's happening, so can someone help me? You have to just pretend you do know.
Insane. And like you say, I'm guessing things go wrong on occasion, right? Monitors go down, or
all the time. What? I mean, you just pretend it's fine.
Okay, just wing it.
Yeah.
I guess you have no choice, right?
Yeah, you can't stop.
Yeah.
That is the scary thing. That's what I feel. That's the joy of live TV, is that you never know what's going to happen. But it's also the reason that I sort of hope I'll get nervous for the rest of my rest of my career, because you've got to be ready to just stand up and be counted and just figure it out as you're going, because you don't know what's going to happen. You broadly know what's going to happen. Yeah. But you don't quite know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good it's adrenaline. It's good adrenaline.
I can imagine, yeah.
Afterwards I kind of pass out.
Okay, you're like, done. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Fair. So there was the incident last year with where you introduced Tani as Nina.
Oh my God.
Which I can imagine for you was not
just absolutely
great
horrendous.
Fun. Like, what was that? Were things coming into your ears? Like, what went on? Because it was like almost at the worst possible time, when there was a lot of negative commentary around things, and then suddenly, like, you've done that, and you're like, you must have been like, oh man.
Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing this up, because then I don't have to pay money to my therapist anymore to talk about this. And I also don't like the thing about being the presenters. I think I've already said is that you're the last line of defense, right? So I'm not. I can explain to you. Yes, of course, there were things happening. Yeah, including that the communication systems for some reason had been turned off. So we were still live on air, but people didn't. Yeah, I already sound like I'm throwing people under the bus here, and I don't want to do. I am the last line of defense. I completely take responsibility for what happened, because if I'd been. That was the day where we got taken off and then had to come back again, wasn't it? So again, we'd been up since whatever. And so my brain was probably not functioning at 100%.
As most of the riders, I think.
Oh my God, yeah.
A brutal day for everyone, I think.
But yeah, sort of is as it looked. I turned around. I was expecting to see Nina. I sort of, as I was talking, I'm like, that's not, what is going on? Well, I'm going to just, kind of as I just said to you about the end of Lear Gang, I was sort of like, right, just keep talking.
Because you normally get the winner at that point, don't you, right?
Correct,
and which Nina had won that race. But
yeah.
For some reason, Tani was there.
Yeah, it was, oh my God, it was absolutely horrendous. Hopefully next time my brain will take back over and I'll just, I'm looking over here, I'm making a plan, I'm having a conversation with people, I'm ready. I should have reacted obviously to what was in front of my eyes, but
there's a lot going on, right?
It was almost like confirmation bias, like well, there was no real reason for Tani to be there, so I didn't really assess the question of what, like, that's not the right person.
But that's also, I guess, like
that was a mistake. Obviously,
when you're expecting that to be Nina, you've got the winner script in your head, not you've got back on the podium script in your head. Yeah. So you've got to, like, not only you've had the name fluff, but then you've got to, like, reboot the whole script for the chat.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I wish I could so easily have not done that. But in the moment, it was like, it was impossible for anything else to happen.
Yeah,
I'm not really explaining this very well, but it was an absolute fucking nightmare. It's that confirmation thing as well, where, this person said you're about to have this happen. This person said you're about to have this happen. This is not what's happening.
But they must be right.
It was horrendous. Tani was pretty awesome about it. Tony, well, still gives me quite a lot of stick. So, but that's all fun. I went and watched a tiny bit of the Scotland game in his with him. Actually, we left because we only got an iPad. But it's all, everyone's made up now. But
that's good.
She was so elegant about it and handled it so well. Live
TV, these things happen, right? But like,
yeah, but obviously I'm obsessed with this stuff.
Yeah, you love it. It's your passion, right? So
you
beat yourself up over it.
Yeah.
But that's fair. You wouldn't be good at your job if you weren't beating yourself up about mistakes, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, I think so. I watch a lot of stuff back and try and do notes quickly after.
Yeah, I was going to ask what your process is for that, whether you review stuff afterwards.
Yeah, sometimes it's too, because you kind of almost don't know what happens. Like, you almost can't remember the whole show because you're like really in the moment. You're trying to sort of be super focused and try not to drop a bollock, and you're like, it almost wipes from your memory as soon as you've done it. Plus, it feels different to how it looks on air. Yeah. So I tend to try and watch back quite soon afterwards and just give myself kind of 3 points, could have done better. And then I also try and say to myself,
give yourself some props for some stuff as well,
right?
Otherwise,
I find that hard, but I do. I know that you got to, because otherwise it's just quite punishing. Just constantly be like, why didn't you? You said that word stupidly, or you could have thrown to the VT more quickly, or whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
It's good though. Continuous improvement and all that jazz.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does cross country and downhill differ
in
a broadcast context? Not from a cultural, but we could talk about that as well. But I guess the broadcast is to some extent different.
Yes. The feeling of it is completely different. I think the way you structure any TV show, any live sport TV show, is broadly speaking the same. The structure, you've got to have your storylines, you've got to talk about who's in, who's out, who's likely to feature, and any kind of live news almost, if you like. So all of those things are kind of the same. I mean, the vibe, a lot of it's different because of the vibe of the presenter, of the the pundits. That's what I would call them. Because Buck Renton's has more of a kind of laid back style, and obviously Josh's very hyped up, and Aaron again is more kind of self-contained. So sometimes, depending on how the conversation is going, it feels like two completely different worlds. I think it's, to be honest, it's quite hard that we do. For example, this weekend we're talking to each other in Leger. We do short track on Friday, then downhill on Saturday, then back to cross country. And it is it's a completely different headspace.
Even the atmosphere, I guess, like the crowd's a bit different,
Completely
and like
different.
the noise of an XC event versus a down event feels different.
Really does.
If you've never been on site, it's hard to explain, but
yeah,
the crowds are not quite the same, are they?
and to agree with Chris Murray, if you haven't, you can get. Oh no, this is too late. By the time this goes out, they won't be able to get to Leger.
But come to a World
Maybe they
Cup.
could come to Canada.
Yeah, go to Mont-Saint-Anne.
Feels like a big ask if you are listening to this.
Depends if you're based
Reading,
in Mont-Saint-Anne, then it's all right, isn't it? I'm hoping to get to Mont-Saint-Anne, but it's not a done deal yet. But it's one I really want to visit. Like so much history, that track and that venue, and
yeah,
I'd like to get there. It looked amazing last year. I had massive FOMO of all the forest and the leaves turning, and the track looked wicked, and
it looked incredible.
Yeah,
it was a pretty incredible moment as well with Jackson.
Didn't you have a bit of a rough weekend there?
Do you mean I got drunk?
No, did you not? Did you not have a shoulder issue?
Was that there? I actually don't remember. I fell down just walking.
Like on track or?
Yeah, I just slipped, and because I broke my shoulder skiing ages ago. It sometimes pops
it falls out.
Yeah, and so I did that.
That's
my makeup artist had to pop it back
just
in
before a broadcast.
So bad.
Is it painful when it's been out, or are you so used to it these days? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there some? Because you've had this, haven't you?
I've done my one, but I'm old enough that mine just like it tears rather than stretches, so it doesn't tend to fall out. It just takes longer to heal.
Oh God!
I think as you get older, you're more likely to rip ligament and stuff than you are to stretch it. I think that's my very basic understanding.
Old, so I don't know. But Reese, I was talking to Reese because he's done. And I don't know. I was giving him a bit of like the bad news, which probably wasn't that helpful, given that he was so sad about not being able to. Yeah, because
he's only just got back, and then to have that shoulder issues.
He's a great broadcaster as well, by the way.
They're also very natural, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And he's got that range as well that is so important, where he can talk about stuff in depth, but then he can also do the like, oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, can bring it up.
Yeah. How do we get onto that? Oh yeah, shoulders. Yeah, so we just kind of popped it back in again, and I was like too embarrassed to complain.
Just went and did a live broadcast. I hope you had some good drugs.
Yes, I had to go to the like medical tent. It was so embarrassing. Everyone else was actually come off like
with all the riders and stuff. You're there like, oh yeah, I slipped over.
Yeah, I just fell on a rock.
Class. How has it been being part of? I know you're not like directly a Warner Brothers employee. I think you like.
I don't think presenters normally really are. They just, it's sort of, you're like contracted to do stuff. I don't know.
But you're like, you've become the face of the live broadcaster stuff. And I mean, I think it's getting a little bit better, but certainly last year there was a lot of, people don't like change, and it was a big change moving to Warner Brothers, and, certain things people weren't very happy about. How's it been being like exposed to that, I guess?
Well, I think, obviously people, what we've been talking about with sport generally, like people fall in love with everything around their sport, and they feel really strong sense of ownership, which they should. And I hope gradually, people start to feel like we're part of their gang too. But of course, all the stuff that Rob Warner did was so great. You talk about the vocal range, like the stuff that he did he's a great commentator.
Yeah, he bleeds passion. Hey?
Yeah, he's so great. And of course, people value that. And people don't like to feel as though it's their thing. Like, why shouldn't they be able to just appoint someone and keep them? Why not? I completely get it.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, it's my profession. I've come into those scenarios quite a few times. I was part of a football podcast where there was a similar sort of vibe. Football's pretty tough with its online chatter sometimes.
I can imagine, yeah.
God, yeah. So I've got experience of kind of angry people on the internet, and I guess the first thing to say is that I kind of respect the sentiment. Like nobody, as in like nobody, like I'm a sports fan too. Like I don't want people to just come in and change stuff for no reason, and it's hard. A lot of the stuff that's been really amazing that Warner Brothers have done is not really the kind of thing that you talk about. It's hard to talk about the cameras and various different, and how we're trying to position stuff, and doing the live show and sticking with the celebrations for as long as we can.
Yeah,
it's hard to really communicate that in like that clear a way.
Yeah, fair.
People don't it's not that interesting to most people, I don't think.
Yeah.
But the fact of them coming in and saying, we want to do this for 8 years, that is a serious investment in a sport. And yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm not making the decisions, obviously, but like, I think there's it's clear from every time I talk to the guys, the bosses, that this is something that they feel very passionately about trying to grow and about trying to reach new people. Now, of course, the challenge with that is, as I well know from being a part of the squash world as well, is like people sort of want new people, but they sort of kind of don't as well.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
because it's your area, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same in football as well, you know. Yeah, of course you kind of want lots of people. Well, I do, but I'd like everyone in the world to support Tottenham. But if you've been doing it for a long time and then there's all these like Johnny-come-latelys turning up and da-da-da, you're a bit like, you haven't earned this.
And it can change the culture as well, I think, to an extent. Like mountain biking, especially downhill, is such a core kind of raw thing that I think people do worry that like it becomes polished and it loses its edge. And I think it's been talked about with various sports coming into the Olympics, like skateboarding and you know, all this kind of snowboarding and stuff. Like, what does it change the culture?
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that. And I guess maybe I'm a bit of a softie, but I do just love. I have this, you know, dream that people could just feel welcome in any sport. But I totally understand from being a bit tribal myself sometimes that you can't help what you feel sometimes. Yeah. The thing I'd say about the online stuff is, I don't know, sometimes it is a bit mean. and I don't know about that. Like, as I'm saying to you, I've experienced that a lot in football and on Sky. And I think, you know, quite often, I never remember one, don't worry, I'm not about to start crying, although I know that's what you secretly want.
Yeah, we're going full Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah, hello. This is actually just funny. I was doing a shift on Christmas Day at Sky, which is not it's not the dream shift. No. But yes, I was on Sky Sports News doing however many hours it was. I think I must have just been the one, you know, I didn't have kids, and so you had
no good excuse.
I was happy to do it. You know, I was also like, I'd only just joined, so of course I should do it. Lots of other people had done it before. Perfectly happy. But it's not the dream place you want to be on Christmas Day at whatever time it was, when everyone else is eating their bloody turkey. And someone tweeted to me at Kevin Mason, "Happy Christmas to everybody except Kate at KVL Mason, because she's a fucking slag," or something. I can't remember. It wasn't exactly that, but it was something like that.
It's a pretty full-on Christmas gift, isn't it?
You are a strange individual. In a way, it's quite an honour, isn't it? That I'm in someone's head
out that strongly.
That day. Yeah. I don't think, to be fair to him or her, I don't think she called me a slag. It wasn't, but it was that kind of tone. She was a bitch or something. I was just like, guys, you got to not
wind it back a bit.
That's an odd bit of behaviour. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like I've kind of seen it all before in a sense. So honestly, I respect the fact that people don't necessarily want to see change, and I get that we've got to like kind of earn the right to show that we're here and we're serious and we're working, as I've said to you with my spreadsheets, you know, we're working hard to try and both really do the now and also to know about the past and to respect that and to build that into the coverage. Yeah. But it is obviously a challenge, and I get why people won't immediately be happy with that. On the flip side, I would say, and again, you can call me a bitch if you want to. You can. It's fine. I don't really mind. I might tell you to fuck off sometimes. I sometimes treat myself.
Depends what mood we catch you in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I tend to do it like occasionally, just because I don't think it's a bit standing up to. I think if people are saying mean stuff to you all the time,
I think it's fair to.
You probably should occasionally say. Yeah. But also, by the way, I do get some like lovely stuff. So I don't want you to think this is Kate. She's just sitting in her cave crying. But what I would say is that if you are being really horrible all the time, first of all, I don't think it's good for you. Like just saying lots of mean stuff. It's just,
You're
I'm
probably
reading a lot
not
of
very
psychology.
happy.
Yeah, I write a column in the Metro now, and
Yeah.
I try and kind of tie sort of sports things I've thought about that week to psychology. I just think that's really interesting. Like, again, this subject of communities, like how sport can be such a powerful space for good.
Yeah.
And I try and like talk about, here's some research saying if you do this, then this might happen. And I think there's this thing which I wrote about last week, I think, co-rumination. So the idea that if you're talking to people about your problems, that can be good, but there's a kind of point at which it flips, where if you're just spending your time, you and me sitting at work, for example, and we're constantly just like having the same old conversation about the same manager we think is a prick or whoever, that is apparently not good for your welfare. And your kind of level of self-reported like close to depressive symptoms can be increased by doing that. And I actually think some of the stuff that people do online is not helping their own welfare. So on the one side, it might not be good for you, and on the other side there's like admin teams and young men and women working on those accounts who you don't maybe see, and it's not nice. I don't think really they should have to wade through all of that stuff, but I totally respect the rights for people to feel any way they want to feel.
It's kind of interesting to hear you have that take on it, that it's like I feel I have to earn my place here.
Yeah, of course.
And that I don't just stroll in and like it's all good from day one. But so how's the sort of feeling once you're at the events now? You're a year and a half in. Are you starting to feel more comfortable, more welcome? You're obviously starting to get to know some of the characters a bit more, and that comes across in the interviews, I think, as well.
I'm so glad. Yeah, no, it's so much. It is obviously a lot easier once you kind of know everybody, and you can just be like, hey, come and have a chat. And plus, I keep name checking them because I think it's quite cool that we get to hang out. But Aaron Gwynn and Reese as well. They've all been and Miriam. They've all just been really welcoming, and because they were part of the team of because they were injured, they came and did a bit of punditry in some cases. They have been really support. Like it's really helped that kind of support, not just on the knowledge side, but also just they understand, I think, a bit more about what we're trying to do. Like Jackson Goldson came in just for 2 minutes to the broadcast the other day. We had like 2 seconds to get him on air and say some stuff. And bless it. Like afterwards, he was very like, like that was actually quite complicated, wasn't it? He's a bit more hyped up about what we're trying to do and why it's complicated.
Yeah.
So that's been wicked. And just I don't know, having lots of friendly faces.
That's cool.
It does make a real difference because we're traveling. It's not the easiest thing
circus
to get to.
Yeah.
All I get very car sick, and all the transfers are quite serious. So when you rock up and you've got people to chat to, it's just the best.
And that's cool. And I think having people like Aaron and Miriam and Reese know you and know that you're trying to do a good job, that like most of the riders respect those riders, and therefore they start to be like, okay, well, if Aaron thinks that these guys are doing a good job, then
I think
that whole like acceptance piece probably starts to improve. So
and I think also everybody's watched the TV before, so they kind of think they don't maybe think about how it is held together, and that maybe that is a bit more complicated. I don't go into other people's jobs and start telling them they're doing terribly.
Do you not?
I might start.
It'd be fun, wouldn't it?
If Dave 6392 keeps going off at me, I might.
Class. Right, we should start wrapping up because I know you need to be other places fairly soon. We have 4 questions that we ask everyone at the end of an episode.
Okay.
And I've modified them ever so slightly.
Is that because I'm shit on a bike?
I didn't say that. The first one we normally ask is if you had £150 to spend to improve your performance on a bike, what would you go spend it on? But I was going to say if you had £150 to invest in yourself, to improve yourself, what would you recommend people go spend that on?
Oh, am I going to sound too deep here if I say...
You can go as deep or as shallow as you want on this one.
I guess it's because of the context of what we've just been talking about that this is top of mind.
Yeah.
But I think... I don't know how many sessions you could get for that. I just started going to a counsellor.
Okay.
And I think it's pretty cool. I think I don't know how many you could get because I'm not very good at maths.
Probably not very many.
But I think probably it still would be worth it.
Yeah.
Because I just think that ability to have a conversation with somebody where there's nothing in it, like the whole purpose of the session is to just talk about how you're getting on.
Yeah.
I just think that's really important.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people only go there when they feel that there's a problem that needs fixing.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see any harm in going there just to have that conversation, like, how's things?
Yeah.
How are you getting on?
Yeah.
What could be better? Like, what?
Exactly. And you sometimes identify, if they're really good, that you sometimes identify stuff that you hadn't like made the link about.
Yeah.
And I think it's just nice to have a space to, I don't know, to think about stuff. Because quite often you're kind of running from place to place, or you're like, again, on the internet a lot. And it's just good to, well, you do it all the time, but it is, with your work, but it is good.
Yeah, having conversations is nice. And I'm lucky, I guess. It's rare to have the chance to sit with someone for an hour and not be disrupted by things. So maybe paying a counsellor to do it, it's worth it.
Yeah, well, I there's a guy, I went on this lovely guy, Simon's podcast. He's trying to do, he thinks it's important to kind of tie up some of the mental health challenges that like guys might have with kind of sports fan groups as well.
Okay.
And he's got this concept where he's going to put a bench that's got a little plaque on or a little thing on it saying, "Oh, come and sit on the bench and have a chat with your mate," or you can find out more information if you need help from this place, and putting them into all these different clubhouses around the world.
Nice.
And I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that is a cool idea. All right, next one.
Yes.
If you could wind back the clock and sit down with yourself age 16, what advice would you give her?
It's fucking Tanny Seagrave, not me.
If that's the worst thing you've done, I think you're doing all right.
You're a sweetheart. People always say stuff like, don't worry about what other people think and all that sort of stuff. But I think that's too difficult, because like it's almost impossible to not worry about what other people think. And I don't want to be like, oh, don't be so obsessed about exams, because as I've already said to you, like I thought it was quite cool to end up going to university and doing some cool stuff there. But I think probably I would tell her to chill out a bit.
Just wind it down a notch.
Yeah. But and definitely don't think you're going to marry the boyfriend that you're with at that age. That was stupid.
Yeah, I've seen that go wrong on a few occasions.
Luckily I didn't, but I probably would have done if you hadn't dumped me.
Class. All right, moving on.
Yes.
Next one. If you could have a coaching session from anyone, past or present, who would it be and what would you want to learn? And this is normally riding related. You could make it riding related if you wanted, or it could be like anywhere in life. Well,
I think the mentality monster really is Miriam Nicol.
Yeah.
So I'd wanna understand.
Mentality monster.
Yeah, I think
that.
she is.
Yeah.
Because I'd want to understand how she's gone from being out of action for so long to feeling at her age as well. 34 she is now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's difficult to keep throwing yourself down these.
Yeah, and she doesn't need to.
She doesn't need to. Yeah. She's achieved so much. Yeah. So I think I would love to have a session. Maybe I can make her do this.
I think you could make that happen.
To talk about how you put yourself back from that position of like, maybe this is never going to happen again.
Yeah.
To being like, I want it to happen again, and I'm just gonna give my all to that, and it doesn't actually matter if I fail. I think that's incredible.
Yeah. You think we'll see her on the top step again pretty soon?
Oh my God. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, it's going to happen, I think, at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. The pace was clearly there in Val de Sol, so yeah, I think it's coming.
That'll be amazing. There'll be more tears.
Yeah, cool. Last one. Something you do every day that you feel benefits you.
Oh God. This could go a bit Jake Humphrey if we're not careful.
Let's not go too hard on Jake Humphrey.
You're going to cut that?
No.
Oh no. God, because I was going to say that thing about making your bed is really good. But I think that is a bit basic. Something I do every day that benefits me. I really should have thought about this in advance a bit more.
Are you a creature of habit, a person of routine?
I'm
not.
Or not. I'm really not. Yeah. No. And I think I've partly had to be because often, like with work, it's just very all over the place. There's not like my days, after I come back from one of these weekends, I just sleep for like 12 hours or something. And then it's and I guess
every week for you looks different, right? Depending on what work you're doing and where you are in the world. And
I don't, again, at risk of coming across as a sort of, I've mentioned the counselling, and now I'm going to say I do try and stand and like look in the far distance
Okay.
for like a couple of minutes.
Which is hard in London.
Yes. Well, I'm lucky because I got an upstairs window.
So you've got some view.
But I also I can get to the river
Okay.
quite easily. So I try and do that.
Yeah.
Because as you say, it's so built up, and I think it's good for your soul. This is why mountains are so bloody amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
Is you can stand and you can just look far. I heard there's something about your eyesight as well. You got to go do that. But also I think it just I think it just makes you feel better.
There's something to do with the way your eye responds to looking into the distance that creates a feeling of calm. There is some science here. I heard someone talk about it on some podcast somewhere.
If I could, I wouldn't, if I lived in the countryside or if I was away all the time, I would try and go and like stand in trees every day. Yeah. Because they're so good.
It's a good way to live. Right. It's been an absolute pleasure finding out more and finally getting the chance to sit down and have a good chat. I'm looking forward to seeing how like everything progresses. I feel like it is on an upward trajectory, like the quality of the broadcast and the coverage and everything's continues to improve, which is wicked. And the racing's been insane. So long may it continue. If people want to like follow you and see like some of the other stuff that you do outside of mountain bike, like where are they looking?
Instagram and Twitter still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah, I know.
No TikTok?
I have an account, but I haven't quite cracked it yet.
Okay, fair.
Maybe I'll get there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's at KVL Mason everywhere.
Okay. Nice.
Or you can just tell me to fuck off if you want to.
It's a lovely place to end. Thanks, Kate. It's been fun. I'll stick links to all that stuff in the show notes so people can find it. But yeah, all the best. Hope this weekend goes well and the rest of the season, and we'll see you around.
Chris, you're a ledge. Thank you. I feel so proud to have been a part of one of your podcasts because I listen to them so much.
There you
so
go.
Yeah,
sweet.
The Chris's, you are absolute legends.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Cheers, mate.